Let's begin with the headlines. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Berlin to meet with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to discuss crucial issues. In Kinshasa, dozens of Congolese trooped to the streets chanting pro-government slogans at the standing parliament for eternal elongation for their leader. And the Supreme Court in Nigeria has granted the application for accelerated hearing moved by the Turaki-led PDP, having agreed with the submission. Right now, President Bola Tinubu is promising that his administration will continue to stay the course of development trajectory until the promise of Nigeria is matched by the performance of its institutions and the prosperity of its people. The president renewed his promise in Abuja at the inauguration of the new corporate headquarters of the Nigerian Revenue Service, formerly known as the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Details of that report will come in subsequent bulletins. The Supreme Court has granted the application for accelerated hearing moved by the Turaki-led PDP, having agreed with the submission by their counsel, Chris Uche, SAN. Judiciary correspondent Austin Anyebe reports that similar gesture was extended to the hearing of the appeal by David Mark. The report.
With end of April 2026 set by INEC for political parties to submit names of their leaders, parties are working round the clock. Following the nullification of the Turaki-led faction of the PDP by the Federal High Court and Court of Appeal, they have filed an appeal before the Supreme Court to challenge the judgment. When the case was announced before a panel of 5 justices, counsel to the appellant Chris Uche, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, prayed the court via a motion for accelerated hearing in the light of the INEC timetable. This was not opposed to by the respondents, as the court granted the respondents 5 days from today to respond to the appellant's processes and fixed 22nd April for the hearing of the main appeal. The Turaki-led PDP faction is praying the Apex Court to quash the ruling of the Court of Appeal, which upheld the ruling of the Federal High Court, stopping the PDP National Convention in Ibadan in November 2025. The Turaki-led PDP faction in the appeal argued that the court lacks jurisdiction over the matter since it's a party's internal affairs.
In recognition of the fact that this affects democracy, they have adjusted, and they stated so. They have adjusted so that parties in this matter can know their fate, taking into cognizance the timetable issued by the Independent National Electoral Commission.
In the appeal filed by Senator David Mark following his non-recognition by INEC as the leader of ADC, his counsel, Jibril Okutekpa, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, prayed the court to give him time to file his brief and sought for accelerated hearing. This was not opposed to by the respondents. The court, which indicates that it will accelerate hearing of the appeals, granted his prayers and gave him 24 hours to file his brief, while the respondents have 3 days to respond. The court equally adjourned the hearing of the main appeal to 22nd of April 2026.
That brought before my Lord a situation of extreme urgency and a situation that is of fundamental importance to democratic growth. And you can see that they also appreciated that position and have bent backward to give me 1 day to file my brief.
I don't know, for whatever the reason may be, they have compiled and transmitted their records since the 31st of March. That's more than 14 days ago. They did not file a brief of argument. And but the Supreme Court really bent over backwards to accommodate accelerated hearing of this appeal.
From the Supreme Court, Austin Anyebe, NT News.
The federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to sustainable and climate-responsive initiatives as core pillars for the development of Nigeria's marine and blue economy. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Fatima Sugra Mahmoud, stated this while receiving a delegation from Invest International, a state-owned development finance institution under the Dutch Ministry of Finance, led by Fena Zoe Houkamp in Abuja. Mahmoud, in a statement by the Ministry's Director, Information and Public Relations, Anastasia Obonna, notes that the Ministry is actively integrating climate considerations into its policies and programs with a strong focus on reducing carbon footprints, conserving marine ecosystems, and promoting environmentally responsible resource utilization. In her remarks, Fena Zoe Houkamp reaffirmed Netherlands' commitment to deepening collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, highlighting the organization's expertise in marine and water management, and presented specific project proposals, including a coastal protection initiative with an accompanying feasibility study, as well as nature-based solutions for drainage and water supply systems. Houkamp underscored the shared interest in developing resilient public infrastructure within the blue economy and expressed readiness to align proposed initiatives with the ministry's priority areas, outlining Invest International's financing options, which include up to 35% funding support for public infrastructure projects valued between 101 and 50 million euros. Nigeria's Minister of Steel Development, Shuaibu Abubakar Audu, has signed a $1 billion memorandum of understanding, that is an MOU, with India-based Rashmi Metallics Group to boost investment in Nigeria's steel sector. Statement signed by the head of press and public relations, Ministry of Steel Development, Salamatu Jibania, says the agreement signed in Kolkata on April 14, 2026 is expected to span 3 years and forms part of efforts by the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu to attract foreign direct investment under the Renewed Hope agenda. The deal followed the minister's inspection of the Rashmi Metallic Steel plant in Kolkata, where he commended the company's advanced technology and integrated operations, including direct reduced iron, pig iron, pellets, and finished ductile iron pipes. And Pope Leo XIV arrived in the Algerian city of Annaba this Tuesday, the birthplace of Christian theologian St. Augustine, on 2 days of his historic trip. This is the first visit by a pope to the North African country. The trip had already risked being overshadowed by a spat with the U.S. President Donald Trump, who said he was not a big fan of the Pope after Leo called for peace in the Middle East. About the papal plane en route to Algiers, the 70-year-old American pontiff told reporters, "The blessed gospel says, 'Blessed are the peacemakers.'" He assured that no fear, neither the Trump administration nor speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel, the pontiff maintained. Italian and American bishops have expressed their support for the Pope, as well as the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, known to be close to Trump. She called the U.S. president's remarks unacceptable. The minister described the facility as a model of industrial efficiency, noting that such innovation is critical to repositioning Nigeria's steel industry for global competitiveness. He disclosed that Nigeria holds over 3 billion tons of iron ore reserves with high-grade deposits, while domestic steel consumption is valued at 10 billion annually. The network of international observation missions to the 2026 presidential election of the Republic of Benin has commended the conduct and outcome of the election, stating that the process largely complied with guidelines and international best practices. They addressed a joint press conference in Cotonou, where they delivered their respective preliminary reports on the election. Kelvin Ebonoye reports.
Led by the ECOWAS and AU observation missions, the verdict was that of commendation, with a 54% participation, influenced largely by impressive turnout in rural areas compared to the urban centers. ECOWAS particularly praised the commitment of the citizens and the candidates in upholding the democratic trajectory of their country. The decision of the opposition candidate Paul Humphrey to accept the outcome of the election, even before the official declaration of result, also received a pat on the back, describing him as a true statesman. It, however, urged the authorities in Benin Republic to open up the political space more to ensure greater participation by opposition political parties in future elections, so as to instill the culture of inclusiveness in the process.
The processus electoral. The mission also invite authorities to make provisions in order to specify, to have a legal framework within which that specify when the provisional results of the elections will be shared.
Pas permis au principal parti de l'opposition.
The mission notes as well, however, that the reforms considerably control the civil rights and the participation and activities of civil society organizations.
The result earlier announced by the Autonomous Electoral Commission of Benin, which declared Roman Wadani of the ruling coalition winner of the election, is expected to be validated by the Constitutional Court in the country in the next few days. In Cotonou, Kelvin Ewonwaye, NTA News.
Right now, the day broke in Kinshasa with dozens of Congolese gathered on the street chanting pro-government slogans at his standing parliament. Observers say President Felix Tshisekedi is exploring to push for constitutional change to allow him a third term in the office.
We must support Felix Tshisekedi's project. He is our solution, they chanted. A man dressed in the presidential movement's yellow, blue and white echoed through a megaphone. A circle of listeners, both passerby and supporters of the presidential party, gathered in front of the shops not yet open, but already seemed convinced. The seemingly spontaneous political street debates are organized by word of mouth and are being used to test and promote certain ideas coming from those in power, observers say. The tradition of standing parliaments began in the 1970s as a way to challenge the authoritarian rule of dictator Mobutu Sese Seko by the current president's father, Etienne Tshisekedi, who was then an opposition leader. The Constitution of the Democratic Republic of Congo limits presidents to 2 terms, but Tshisekedi began to float the idea of a revision soon after his re-election. In 2024, on a trip to the northeastern city of Kisangani, he slammed a constitution riddled with weakness and not adapted to the realities of the country, although he did not go into details. A few months later, he called in Parliament for a national reflection on constitutional reform and announced the creation of a national commission while denying that he was seeking another term. Any constitutional change must be approved in a referendum called by the president unless a proposal is approved by a 3/5 majority in Parliament, where Tshisekedi's ruling coalition holds an overwhelming majority.
This is the news on NTA International. Thanks for staying tuned. And earlier we told you that the President Bola Tinubu has inaugurated the new corporate headquarters of the Nigerian Revenue Service, formerly known as the Federal Inland Revenue. We have the report now here by our State House correspondent, Musbao Danwahab.
Nigerian Revenue Service.
New name, new look, new structure. The comprehensive tax reforms instituted by the Tinubu's administration led to its new name, Nigerian Revenue Service, NRS. Also coming early with it is this new corporate headquarters, severally described as befitting of the agency and as a pride of the nation. This 600-seater capacity auditorium is part of a 16th-floor, 3-tower building with offices and other facilities.
Please be seated. Thank you.
The building, started about 22 years ago, is finally delivered in 30 months under this current administration.
The completion of this building at this moment is not by chance. It is a statement that Nigeria is no longer content with promises. We are delivering progress. History will not judge us by what we say, but by what we build, by the institutions we strengthen, and the discipline we sustain.
The feat is another source of pride for the president that his reforms are working. He believes no serious nation can achieve lasting prosperity on a weak and fragmented revenue system. Having chosen the path of reforms and progress, President Tinubu says his government will remain steadfast in delivering not just the gains of the reforms, but also institutions that meet the demands of reform and the expectations of the Nigerian people.
And to the Nigerian Revenue Service, it must embody this new ethos. It must not only collect revenue, it must build trust. It must ensure fairness. It must demonstrate that government can be accountable, efficient, responsive. It must become a model institution that earns confidence at home and respect abroad.
President, if you've not taken that...
The executive chairman of the NRS demonstrated his ability at crunching numbers, juxtaposing the current situation of the reforms with what would have been without the bold decisions of the administration.
At price of $120 per barrel, our subsidy budget today will have been between 38 to 58 trillion per annum if you've not removed subsidy. With your policy, we have zero budget for that today. May 2023, when you assume office, the total money available for the Federation was 711 billion. By September 2025, it was 3.6 trillion. That is 400%.
The data that has been read out here shows clearly that the reform is working. Nigeria today is able, even with the closure of the Hormuz Strait that would have brought fuel to Nigeria, Nigeria is still having fuel. Nobody has noticed that since we came on board, we have not had 2, 3 to 5 kilometers of fuel line, of vehicles lining up to buy petrol.
This headquarters, in its permanence, suggests a system that intends to endure. Endurance, however, will depend less on the structure we commission today and more on the discipline that guides its operation.
The leaders here believe that this new environment will contribute to strengthen efficiency in revenue generation and utilization for national growth and development. In Abuja, Musbao Nanwahab, NCA News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is scheduled to meet with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz this Tuesday in Berlin, a German government spokesman disclosed. German-Ukrainian government consultations are taking place at the Chancellery, the spokesman said. Chancellor Merz will welcome, among others, the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, to Berlin. Germany has become Ukraine's biggest backer in its 4-year war against Russia's invasion, as the United States under President Donald Trump has cut back on support, and Kyiv is seen to keep Berlin on side. The U.S.-initiated peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have stalled, with Kyiv balking at the idea it could cede territory to Russia. Now, to raise awareness about maternal health, encourage proper antenatal and postnatal care, and help reduce preventable maternal deaths, 6 service delivery instruments to further strengthen the equality of maternal and newborn care across Nigeria has been introduced at a ministerial briefing on safe motherhood by the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. Elizabeth Omori reports that the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, represented by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, revealed that the document will bridge gaps in maternal care across Nigeria. This initiative remains a critical step towards improving emergency services and providing respectful care throughout pregnancy and childbirth.
The MAMI Comprehensive Guideline serves as an operational blueprint for implementing the maternal and neonatal mortality reduction innovation initiatives. It outlines the integrated package of interventions across community and facility levels, including demand generation, service delivery, strengthening referral systems, and accountability mechanisms.
The federal government, in partnership with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, has launched a hydropower center of excellence in Nigeria. Now, this is part of efforts to expand renewable energy capacity and address the country's electricity deficit. Joshua Ojito reports.
Nigeria is blessed with abundant hydropower resources, but record shows that only 5% is utilized for electricity generation. Now, the federal government has taken steps to harness these resources with the establishment of a hydropower center for the development of mini hydroelectric dams to improve electricity generation. China International Development Cooperation Agency is funding the project, which will be located at the Yakubu Gowon University, formerly known as the University of Abuja, and it will serve as a regional hub for technical training, policy support, and knowledge transfer in small hydropower development across West Africa.
UNIDO will continue to work with the government of Nigeria in its drive towards an industrialized and diversified economy.
Across Nigeria, we have over 400 major dams, and which can be used for small hydropower development.
The project is backed by China's Global Development and South-South Cooperation Fund through a trilateral partnership involving UNIDO and Nigerian government.
We will build the small hydropower center of excellence in Nigeria to the highest standards.
And it is our strong conviction that this project will bridge the yearning energy gap.
The center will support the deployment of hybrid energy systems combining hydropower with solar and wind to improve electricity access. Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
Let's head to Kaduna, where the Minister of Defense, Christopher Musa, has warned individuals collaborating with terrorist groups to desist from such habit, as anyone found aiding their activities will face serious consequences. The minister made this known while reacting to the recent airstrike at Jili Market shortly after attending the Kaduna State Security Council meeting. Mohammed Omar Ajengi reports.
Traditional rulers and heads of security agencies in Kaduna State gathered at the council chamber for a security council meeting to address rising concerns across the state. It is an expanded meeting attended by the Minister of Defense where discussions centered on identifying security threats and coordinating responses in collaboration with the federal government. The consensus among them has been result-oriented. The Minister of Defense, Christopher Musa, while responding to questions from newsmen on the security situation, including the Jili Market airstrike, has this to say.
Whoever their sponsors are, whoever their supporters are, they should know. And I want to mention what happened recently at Jili, to tell them that now our new strategy is anybody, a friend of a thief is a thief. I've said that severally. Anybody that is doing any trading, any support to them, we find you together with them, we're going to deal with you like the bandit, like the terrorists. So people should know, if you don't want to be harmed, please avoid where those terrorists are and don't give them any support.
Governor Obasani of Kaduna State says some of the emerging threats may have political motives, urging the security agencies to remain vigilant.
Continue to work and support our security agencies. I also want to thank our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for his support to our state, particularly ensuring that the security agencies work with us. And there are many other areas the President has supported us to address this problem.
It is expected that this meeting involving traditional rulers will be held regularly to facilitate the exchange of intelligence information until security challenges across the state are addressed. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umar Ajingi, NTA News.
From Kaduna, we head to Kebbi State, where Vice President Kashim Shettima condemned recent attacks on security personnel and extended condolences to the government and people of the state over the death of the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Muhammad Usman Zuru. The Vice President, who paid a condolence visit, was received by Governor Nasser Idris alongside top government officials. Correspondent Abdul Jalil Muhammad Bawa reports.
Vice President Kashim Shettima, who was in Kebbi State, conveyed the sympathy of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the federal government to Governor Nasser Idris over the recent attack that led to the death of 11 security personnel in Shanga local government area, as well as other attacks on communities in the state.
The President equally instructed me to come with the DG of NEMA, Ms. Zubaida Umar, who incidentally is a daughter of the soil, to ensure that adequate measures are put in place to give succor and support to the displaced communities.
The Vice President also sympathized with the family of the late Speaker, Muhammad Usman Zuru, and the people of Kebbi State, describing his death as a great loss to the state and the nation at large.
May Allah also give the government and people of Kebbi State the fortitude to bear the irreparable losses.
Governor Nasser Idris, while appreciating the effort of security personnel in the state, thanked the Vice President for the visit and show of support, describing it as a source of comfort to the government and people of Kebbi State.
The love that we have for the people and the government of Kebbi State is a true love. And we have no cause whatsoever not to appreciate it.
So we've been having challenges, and now, alhamdulillah, we are fine. I can say we are fine, because I know what we experienced before and what we are enjoying now.
The Vice President also sympathized with the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, over the death of his sister. In Birnin Kebbi, Abdul Jalil Muhammad Bawa, NTA News.
This is where we end the news at this time. I am Frama Panyan. My sign language interpreter is Shagun Ajayi. Thanks for your time.